The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. Tonight, we are starting with Satan. Satan in the classroom, a push to get an after-school satanic club going for grade school kids all around the country, and it's still going strong except in one Pennsylvania community. And while most may stand up and cheer about that one defeat in Pennsylvania, there is a strong case to be made. If God can come into the classroom, so can Satan. And it's coming from a pastor. What do you think?
Well, it's called the After School Satan Club, but we don't engage in religious indoctrination. We're not trying to convert children to Satanism. It just happens to be a club run by the Satanic Temple, and we put it into school districts where they do have proselytizing evangelical clubs where people are free to send their children to those. But we have parents in multiple school districts who want an alternative and want the critical thinking studies that we have on our curriculum and other such things. And the school board voted against that in York County, Pennsylvania. And that doesn't end the battle. It only begins the battle because they seem entirely ignorant of the law over there, which would have prevented them from having a vote to begin with. Because frankly, it's not up to a school board to decide which religious groups they approve of and which ones they do not. Those public facilities are open to any group. They're not endorsed by the school district. They're not part of the regular school curriculum. They're not forced to have their children engage with it if they don't want. They didn't need to create this controversy over it, and we would rather that they hadn't. And if they didn't like it, there was no way it was going to impede upon their lives or their religious worship in any way.
Now, for parents who may be concerned out there and they hear the word Satan, the After School Satan Club, do you blame them for thinking this would be more about devil worshiping than what you're saying it's about?
No, we realize that people are going to have that kind of visceral reaction. People have their assumptions about what self-identified Satanism means to the people who are engaged with it or practicing it. And that's fine. It's up to us to put forward the public messaging to let people know who we really are and what we really believe and what we do. And part of that is allowing us to engage in the public forum in ways in which we can show people and lead by example and show what we really mean when we say these things and what we're really doing. And again, if they don't want to engage with us, they don't have to. But I think they shouldn't deny us equal access just based on the assumptions they've made prior.
So what would happen in one of these clubs after school? What would you talk about? What would you do? What would be the curriculum for parents who may be, skeptical of it?
Earlier on, when we were putting together our curriculum for the After School Satan Clubs, we had a very kind of defined curriculum that we felt led children through different critical thinking exercises to build up their thought process skills and a reliance on science to find solutions to questions they have. What we found when we started initiating these clubs is that being an after-school club, the children weren't really interested in jumping into a degree-type program after class and were more interested probably in having fun and playing games or whatever. So we opted for a more self-directed learning curriculum where we have games and activities and trained volunteers who can help guide the children through lessons related to whatever they're interested in at that time. And so in that way, we want to kind of keep it light and fun and still fill that time.
Now, Pastor D.Z. Cofield, who's based here in Houston, what would be wrong with that?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for having me on. I think the issue is really about a parent's choice. And I don't disagree with Mr. Greaves's position, in part because when you look back at the 2001 Supreme Court rule that was rendered, churches and Christian-based organizations have used that to their advantage for years. I'm concerned that even though I am a Christian, I'm concerned that they're bringing the Bible in to the instructional day. That is a concern for me because while
now many parents watching Pastor Cofield would say, what? Now you're a pastor, you're a leader of a church. Why don't you want the Bible in there?
Because number one, biblically, the primary discipler of children are their parents and their homes. I don't want that in the hands of educators. Educators have enough responsibility, Isaiah. And what if the educator who wants to bring in a sacred text brings in the Quran, for example? Then my child has to go into that curriculum. That should not be up to the teacher to decide that. That should be my choice. In an after school program setting, children have the freedom to choose. Parents have the freedom to choose. I have a problem with this vote because they put a Bible program right in the middle of the school day, and they want to deprive another religious group of their rights. Now, as antagonistic as I think calling this the Satan curriculum or the Satan church worship, and they're focusing on secularism and rational thinking and whatnot, that's my personal opinion. But I just think it's unfair for Christians to take the same law to bring in Bible clubs in the after school setting and then get mad when somebody who has a different religious perspective wants to bring in their religious teaching in an after school setting.
And Lucian, when you hear Pastor Cofield say antagonistic title, why call it that? Why call it the Satan after school program? Why don't you call it the secular program or the science program?
Well, because we do want a shot at redemption for the name. We legitimately identify as Satanists. And even though we're non-theistic, personally, that holds a lot of meaning to us. And it's not...
Before you go any further, for the viewer who may be just tuning in or trying to understand all of this, when you call yourself a Satanist, what does that mean exactly?
Right. It's not devil worship. We're non-theistic, meaning we don't hold to supernatural beliefs or we don't endorse supernatural beliefs. We don't believe in a literal Satan, but we do view Satan as a literary metaphor that stands for us, a revolt against tyranny, and more specifically, in most cases, theocratic tyranny. And we feel it's theocratic when government tries to endorse one religion over another or give one lesser placement over another. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about us is that even though a lot of people who came to identify as Satanists have backgrounds in which they had a negative relationship to mainstream churches or institutions, it's not with hostility to Christian individuals that they've taken that perspective. It's something that's kind of evolved in them throughout their lifetime. And I think that I understand Mr. Cofield's reticence to have government endorse your religious viewpoint, because the fact of the matter is we wouldn't want that either. We wouldn't want a school board saying we only will accept the after-school Satan club, but Christian clubs do not apply. Because for us, somebody's religious belief, theistic or non-theistic, isn't genuine if taken under coercion. So I think anybody of religious faith should be offended when a government institution tries to take ownership of what's sacred to them.
Here's another question. Do children even know what this is all about? We talk about it next. Welcome back. Should Satan be allowed in schools for extracurricular activities? Before the break, we were discussing the denial of a satanic after-school program in Pennsylvania, and the rejection is something a pastor doesn't agree with. Let's pick up the conversation.
Do you think children as young as elementary school, grade school age are sophisticated enough to realize that this club will not be about Satan, but it will be about facts and science? Is it over their head?
It may be it's certainly going to be if they're just hearing some of the conspiracist hype in some of the hysteria surrounding the controversy that's brought along with their club. But for those engaging with the club, they're not going to find lessons in how to be a Satanist or why they should identify as Satanists. And if they don't, that's fine by us. But if they know that we're Satanists and that the Satanic Temple are running these clubs, maybe at least it'll give them pause to more deeply consider looking into who we actually are and what we believe, rather than believing the hysteria that's surrounding this. And I think that can be a good thing.
How many clubs do you have already established around the country?
I think right now it's only about 4, and there's several other in the process of getting going. We were held up with the coronavirus and getting our liability insurance in order. So this is kind of the new round where we're doing these things. And the interesting part is is in the school districts where they realized it wasn't really within their authority to say no to us. And in fact, the school board meeting where they voted to deny us, this should have never been up to vote to begin with. But in places where they haven't insisted on creating this controversy, it's gone relatively unnoticed. And the people who want to engage with it, and the others, they pretty much don't notice.
And Pastor Cofield, before we go, do you think this is all over the heads of young children? This particular club, when you say the after school Satan program, do you think they really know what they're getting into?
I don't think they necessarily do, but I do think we're minimizing the role of parents and guardians in this whole argument. The fact of the matter is, when you talk about an after school program, there are a number of after school programs that my children didn't participate in, that I'm sure my grandchildren won't participate in, but the choice and the option is there. But that's up to the parent or the guardian to decide if they're going to participate. And I think Mr. Greaves's point is well taken, in that so many things are going on at a school that children don't participate in. This is not a mandatory required program. Children don't have to go to it. Parents don't have to enroll their children in it. I'm more concerned about something that goes on during the school day as opposed to after school, regardless of my personal preferences or my personal beliefs. What I don't condone, what I don't agree with, I can't understand. And when I go back to that 2001 Supreme Court case ruling, Good News Club versus Milford Central School, the ruling states that all religious clubs are guaranteed to have a limited public forum in districts, regardless of faith practices. This was not limited to Christian beliefs, Buddhist beliefs, theistic beliefs. This was all religious clubs. And so if this is deemed to be a religious club, then it is what it is. And we have a choice whether we send our children or not. But I do think whenever we take the position and we want to take what we consider the moral high ground, or in this case, the religious high ground, and we want to dictate to one group they cannot come, I just really am concerned about the day when Christianity is not the majority, it's the minority, and you are ruled against by government officials. Oh, wait a minute, Isaiah, that has happened in history already. And Christians were killed for their faith. So this is not anything new. This is just a new form that this is taking place when we talk about the persecution of people because of their faith and their beliefs.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on The Factor. Uncensored, a fascinating topic that we'll continue to explore. Thank you both.